Hey there, thanks for stopping by the channel. This is Magniboards, where we talk about anything and everything about the keyboard hobby and all things related to it. So if you're into that, subscribe to the channel now, hit that notification bell to get the latest. All right, so if you've seen my recent posts, I mentioned that this episode is a special one because it's my birth month. And I wanted to start by saying thanks to all of you who subscribed and supported this channel. It really means a lot, so in this episode, I teamed up with a few friends to give out some stuff as a token of thanks to everyone. This episode also features a few local brands who banded together to support Jay, who, if you're not familiar with, is the group buy runner and designer of the set GMK Lazurite. We'll talk more about the set later in the episode. Alright, so in this episode of Mech Builds, we'll assemble one of the most sought after boards, the Geonworks F1-8x. As always, we'll talk about the board, the unboxing, the build, along with the choices of switches and keycaps, the cost, and finally the sound test. Alright, so the F1-8x is a TKL or 10 keyless form factor board with a 9-degree typing angle. It features an O-ring mounting system where O-rings can be inserted on the edges of the top case and between the plate and the bottom case for extra cushioning and flexibility. This was a Korea-only release board back in 2020 September. But due to its popularity, Geon released some units internationally through several vendors. These boards were sold around $430 US for A stock units and $415 US for B stock units on swag keys. However, the aftermarket prices range from $650 to as high as $850 around late last year. And it recently went up to $1,000 US on Mech Market and is quite difficult to find. I don't recommend getting them now as they are super expensive. I got mine off the aftermarket a few months ago for $650, which is already a steal price for a board that's out of reach for me during the time of the sale. So the plan was to essentially make this my endgame board and convert the PCB to hot swap via Millmax sockets so I can use it for switch reviews for the channel. Alright, so let's go to the unboxing. The kit comes with a TKL case, and inside we'll find a Fave 87 PCB, some O-rings, and of course, the board itself. The unassembled board weighs like a chunky boy at 3.105 kilograms. Inside the board are 6 brass weights that weigh around 327 grams each. Combined, they weigh more than half of the board at 1.962 kilograms. As always, I tested the PCB to ensure that I'm building a fully functional board. Since I plan to convert the board to a hot swap build, we will install the Millmax sockets first before putting the stabilizers on. We normally install the sockets on the front end of the board, but this time I wanted to try something different and install the sockets in reverse. I taped the front part of the PCB to cover the socket holes and inserted the back end of the Millmax sockets just enough until it touches the surface of the tape. I wanted to install it this way because I often have issues inserting the switches with thicker legs into the front part of the Millmax sockets because that end has a tighter clearance compared to the back end. Since there is a contact point in the middle of the socket, there won't be any issues anyway. Just a disclaimer, this method is a tad more difficult than the usual way of soldering sockets because it has no other support that will keep it in place apart from the tape due to the size of the switch holes. They are bigger than the back end of the sockets, hence it can wiggle with the slightest contact. You'd have to be really careful in soldering it. Make sure you clean the tip after soldering each socket. Since the socket is loose, it can stick to your soldering iron if the iron has some solder residue. I don't recommend this to people who have not done soldering yet because it requires a lot of practice. You'd have to know how far you'll push the solder and how long you'd have to heat it because once you touch it and it moves before the solder hardens, you'll have to desolder it and redo it. But once you do it perfectly, it looks clean. You won't see any excess parts of the socket and the switch sits flat on the surface. Once soldering is done, it's time to install the stabs. For stabs, I used the Duroc V2 stabilizers lubed with Krytox 205 grade 0 and the wire ends were dipped in dielectric grease. Once the stabs are installed, we'll place the aluminum plate and fit the switches. For switches, I used a Franken switch called Creamsicles. Creamsicles are made with Novelty's cream stems inside tangerine housings. I spring swapped them to 63.5 TX springs that I had left over. Of course, after putting the switches onto the plate, it's time to assemble the board. The F1-8x is held by 6 screws at the bottom and has a very interesting setup since the silicone bump-ons act as a cover for the screw holes. Smart. Once assembled, it's time to put on some keycaps. I had GMK Lazurite in mind, but it's still in group buy, so while waiting to get my hands on it, I used the closest key set I have, which is GMK Rudy. GMK Rudy ran on group buy last December 1st, 2019 to December 31st of the same year and was fulfilled around mid-2020. I think it's the closest we can get right now to GMK Lazurite. Its group buy started last 7th of May and will end on the 6th of June 2021, so this is your last call. If you're local to the Philippines, Zion Studios has it on their website. I'll list down the Geekhack thread along with other vendors in the description. Oh, and we're also giving away one Lazurite Deskmat from Patag PH. They have various designs on their websites, which I'll also link below. The giveaway mechanics will be on my Instagram, or you can visit Jay's IG page. The giveaway is open to everyone. Of course, if you've been following me on IG, you'll know that I've been recently fond of Artisans. Artisans add a much needed flavor and personality on the board. I appreciate the craftsmanship and the level of detail in each sculpt. It's also a good way to patronize artists in the hobby. I included artisans that match the Rudy theme like Golden Star Keycaps Barra, Alpha Keycaps Salvador and Keypora, and Artkeys commission line called the Exmore. I also included Lazurite themed keycaps from Zerosky. There are also other collaborations with Keebsake and Bucky's. I'll put their links in the description. Oh, and the wrist rest is from Resinboy Project and is another collaboration with GMK Lazurite. As always, I'll link everything below. Now, I think you're wondering how much all these cost, right? I'll give you the cost in retail, assuming you all got everything in stock, joined the group buys, or won all the raffles. The board costs around $430 US. The switches cost around $120 US for 90 pieces of both NK creams and tangerines. Switch films and lubricants cost an additional $20 US for both. Stabilizers cost around $20 US. The keycaps cost $242 US for the base, Dark Horse, and Spacebar. For artisans, the Alpha Keycaps Rudy and Salvador cost about $90 each. The Artkey Exmore costs around $400 for the commission. And the Golden Star Keycaps Barra costs around $90 US. The total cost of the build for retail is $1,502, excluding shipping and taxes. Now here's the real cost of the build. The board costs around $650 US. The switches cost around $120 US. Switch films and lubes cost around $20 US. Stabilizers cost around $20 US. The keycaps cost around $530 for the base, Dark Horse, and Spacebars. And this is aftermarket prices. The Alpha Keycaps Rudy and Salvador's cost around $550 combined aftermarket price. The Artkey Exmore costs around $400 as a commission price. And finally, the Golden Star Keycaps Barra costs around $300 US in the aftermarket. The total aftermarket cost is a whopping $2,590, excluding shipping and taxes. Well, you know this build isn't cheap, but it is an endgame board. Again, this hobby can ruin you financially, so spend wisely. The way I look at it is that you're holding a piece of history. Sometimes some boards or keycap sets aren't rerun anymore. Though it does drive the market price higher, it's something a collector or hobbyist would probably keep inside their trove of trinkets, even possibly handing it over to the next generation, much like how vintage cameras and lenses are nowadays. Overall, I think this board lived up to the hype and is really amazing. This is the first time I tried an O-ring mount, and the combination with the leaf plate provides a very comfortable typing experience. It's a bit bouncier compared to the boards I tried before, and I'm sure it would have been more awesome on a polycarbonate plate. It's a good choice of a board for a birthday build, definitely. Anyway, this video isn't complete without a sound test. We'll do a typing test with the F1-8x and do another one with the KFE CE just for comparison. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed this episode. Do visit our Instagram accounts to join the giveaway. Again, all links will be in the description. If you'd like to help the channel grow, like this video, comment down below on what you'd want to see next, and do share this content if you enjoyed it. Special thanks to Jay and our local friends for being part of this episode. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace!